get a sense of the person before I start of who they are and how tight their records are and things that they've done and places that they've been. When I say things they've done, I mean like jobs they've held. So first off, I'm looking at like your total active federal military service and your date of rank, because I want to get a sense of how long's this person been in. I'm not saying I use that to pack my score, but it gives me frames a little bit who you are. Then I look at your decorations. Now, this shows that you've got 3 commendation medals and 1 Air Force Achievement Medal. So what I would be doing on the board is, before I even start reading anything, I'm going to check and see if I see 3 comms and 1 achievement. Very commonly, I want to say maybe a third of the records or something like that. Every time I say this, I say a different percentage because I don't remember exactly. I didn't count. But a lot, more than you would imagine, have either decorations missing, the actual decoration is missing because this says 3 and 1, but the other one shows only 2 comms and an achievement, or the opposite, where there'll be 4 comms over there, and this only says 3. Now, it's important that all your decorations are loaded, and it's important that it matches what's on this surf, because even if I can read all your decorations because they're loaded, but this shows like it's missing one, it kind of indicates to me that you didn't really check your records or take care of making sure that everything was tight. So I'm looking to make sure that that matches. There were times when I would see that a person was in Korea, they did a year in Korea, and they got a decoration for it. And then you look at the bottom here, this assignment history, and there's no Korea anywhere. So just, you want to make sure that this is all everything is accurate on this page. So then I'm looking at your assignment history. And on the assignment history, down on the bottom here, can you all see my cursor moving back and forth like? Oh, you can? Okay, good. So I'm looking at a few things. I'm looking at what jobs you held, okay, before I even bother looking at where you held them. I'm looking at what jobs you held. I noticed that Mike has no supervisory experience. Now, that doesn't necessarily kill you or anything, and it doesn't necessarily impact your board score negatively. You can't control that. I would say, when I see that someone was a flight chief, an NCOIC, those kinds of things, it impacts a little bit, because I know, if I'm thinking about making you a flight chief or making you a master sergeant, forget flight chief. Well, flight chief in any career field, but if I'm thinking about making you a master sergeant, it obviously helps a little bit if I could see you held the job already. You have some supervisory experience or a supervisory job. Now, that's not the end all be all, and there's nothing you can do about it. And what you should not do is falsely generate duty titles with your chain of command. Usually board members will see through it if it's something see-throughable, okay? I just saw recently someone had NCOIC of squadron operations, okay, at AFRS, in a recruiting squadron. So that's a made-up position, and I'm a recruiter. I know that that's a made-up position. We don't have an NCOIC of an ops flight, or of an ops section, really. So, okay, so just keep in mind, you don't want to falsely generate stuff. So now I'm also looking at the effective date. If I see, you can see some things here. When you look at these effective dates on the left, sometimes it will look like gamesmanship, where every 3 months they're moving you to a different job, and it indicates either you keep failing and they keep firing you. It can happen once in a while. This isn't an absolute, but you could start to see sometimes a trend or suspect a trend where maybe they're actually trying to game it and make it look like you have more breadth of experience than you really actually do. So I'm looking to see if there's any quick turn, duty title changes. One here or there is no big deal. Things happen. We know that, personnel shifts. But when you start to see, it becomes obvious. And then the last thing I'm looking at is the right side. I'm looking at where you've done your tours. I'm getting a sense of your breadth of experience, not so much here's breadth of experience in regards to jobs you've done, but here I'm looking at breadth of experience for places you've been. So, have you homesteaded? And we understand that sometimes people homestead because of joint spouse or because your previous AFSC may only be done at 2 bases, or you may have EFMP or, humanitarian concerns, things like that. So it's not like a big deal, but we look, and it kind of informs you a little bit. All right. So I'm going to move on. That is how I look at this. You do want to focus on this. Me personally, when I was on the board and I saw that this was not clean, when there were errors throughout, it framed, before I read how well you do your job, it framed how well you take care of your records. And am I going to trust you to take care of your troops' records if you're not taking care of your own? So it really wouldn't affect the board score, but it frames the way I'm going to be reading what I'm about to read about you. All right, so I keep wanting to say any questions, but I'm not going to do that. But
Hey,
if
Chief,
any,
I
yeah,
have one thing to add to that. So
hi,
I know
man.
when I first was initially putting my records together, there was one thing when you asked for the board brief. One, I was like, okay, my surf or my career brief. I didn't know exactly what that was. It
Ah,
was my first time coming up to the board. And I realized that they actually don't post that in Prada until after the board's already convened. So
yes,
I'm just want to make sure that everybody knows that if this is your first time and you got somebody doing your interview or doing your records review, that you're not going to have a board brief when they ask for it. You're going to have to
yeah.
use a surf or career brief.
Good point. If you look at the date prepared, it says 28 May. Like, when did the board meet? Early June, right? So they prepare these records right before, in case there was last minute fixes, like you're working. But what you want to do is, this isn't the document that you'll review beforehand. You need to review your SURF and your career data brief and those kinds of things to make corrections, and then get with your personnelist. Great point. Thank you for pointing that out. All right. So moving on. And up here, you see in the top is the page number I was talking about. If you have questions about a specific page, annotate what page it's on so we can find it quick at the end. All right. Hey, I hope I'm not yelling at everybody, but you know how it is when you're wearing a headset. Sometimes you talk louder than you really need to. So if I'm yelling, sorry for the Robin Leach imitation. All right, so this is the score notice. For those of you who have never tested, this is what a score notice looks, or I use the word tested. I'm old school, I've been in too long, so that's old habits die hard. But this is your score notice. So for those of you who haven't seen one, this is what it would look like. And then down here is where the important stuff happens. Here's what your board score is, 375, and the cutoff score is 383. And down here, so this right here, this section, total eligible in your AFSC and total selected, gives you a sense of, okay, so, and you'll know what the promotion rate is, that kind of thing. But, all right, so let's see. All right, so down here are the board groupings. These are all the board scores that you could possibly mathematically get. 270 down here being the lowest, and it goes all the way up to 450. 450 is really the highest. 450.5 is that gray zone if there's a tiebreaker. So Mike got a 375. There were 28 people. That was the lowest board, the highest board score before where the promotion started. All of these 27 people right here all actually got a 382.5. That's really what they got, a 382.5. But there were only 24 stripes, and 27 people got that 382.5 board score. So then they rescored all of them, and they know how many stripes they have left. The top 24, after they rescore this whole, all 27 of them, the 24 highest got promoted. That could have been one. It could have been 24. It just depends on where the tie break has to be, what board score and how many people got that score. So that's a little tricky, the gray zone. And there's nothing you could do about it. It's good to understand it a little bit, but there isn't anything you could do about it. And if you want to talk about the gray zone, I can explain that more clearly than I just did. At the end, if you want, we can come back to that. But anyway, as you can see, he had strong records. They were just short of getting promoted, but they were strong records because they still outperformed that many board scores. Okay. All right. And these are the folks, when you start going higher, of how many. So you'll notice nobody got a 450. Nobody got a 442. Only a few people got a 435. That changes from year to year. Some board members never give a 10, in which case it is not possible to get a 450 because you need a 10 from all three board members to get a 450. All right. So that's all I'm going to say about the board score. The board doesn't see this. We thought it was important for you to see what the score results look like. All right. So the next thing, I look at the decorations first. The decorations, in theory, will be all of the highlights from your tour. And if I'm seeing the highlights, I could probably get them quicker, kind of get a good sense of how much closer I need to look at your EPRs, judging from how much awesome juice I find in your decorations. So I highlighted the things that I felt were noteworthy within the decorations. And you remember I told you, I want you all to be looking at not just what I'm highlighting and talking about. I want you to look through the decoration and find if you see things that I'm not really talking about. Annotate the page number. We'll talk about it at the end. And I'll explain why it has more weight of who you are now and who you're likely to be tomorrow versus your old decks and your old EPRs. I want to get a sense of your most recent work first. So the things that I annotated in here were that the unit's highest producing recruiter. That's a good way to phrase it. Highest producing recruiter. Now, I'm not sure. I don't think he won the gold badge. I didn't see it anywhere in the records. And I don't even know if he had the highest NEC percentage. However, if he recruited the most people that year, there's different ways of defining things. He honestly was the highest producing recruiter. So that's a very good way of phrasing it. Mike, did you want to chime in on that? You looked like you did.
No, I got nothing. I was actually kind of chuckling because the person that did get gold badge, he's on right now too. So he's actually my office partner now.
That punk.
No, got me.
All right. So, I found that noteworthy and I annotated it. Also, the Unit Commander's Achievement Award. Okay. Now, it's a fine point, but I want to call attention to the details. Sometimes the details matter. If this says that he earned a Unit Commander's Achievement Award, there are a few issues with this. Okay. A few issues with it. One, if it says a Unit Commander's Achievement, what's the difference between, I'm asking rhetorically. I don't need anybody. Actually, Mike, why don't you chime in? You know the answer. What's the difference between a Unit Commander's Achievement and the Unit Commander's Achievement?
I'll be honest with you. I'm not an English major.
Oh. Well, just intuitively. If I say somebody.
Intuitively, I would say it's not very descriptive. It doesn't say, it's just a achievement award. So,
Okay.
But I would say the Commander's Achievement Award for 2017.
Yeah.
So fiscal year 17.
Yeah. So a couple things, three things that could have been better. And it's good. And I highlighted it. So I'm not bashing it. However, if this would have said I would think there was only one. But earning I don't know, maybe 10 people won a Unit Commander's Achievement. Additionally, I don't know if that's for the quarter or for the year. Finally, I don't know how many people are eligible. And you have to remember that on the board, you can't count on there being even one recruiter. There will be one recruiter, or it'll be a recruiting chief. It may be a cross-flow, but they'll still have been in recruiting and they'll know about the Unit Commander's Achievement Award. However, when you're going for senior and chief, it's that much more important. They don't know how big our squadrons are. So, how many people are eligible for this thing? Was it for the year or was it for the quarter? I would have written that he earned the Squadron or Unit Commander's Achievement Award for the year and something like outperforming, and every single person in the squadron is eligible for the Commander's Achievement Award, including the chief, the CGOs. Every person in the squadron is eligible to win the Commander's Achievement Award. And I would have said, outperform those many people. Now, realistically, we know everybody wouldn't be really getting that award, but it's not a lie. It's not a lie. So go ahead, Mike.
No, that's a good point, Chief. And I know when we talked before, that's one of those situations that I wish I could have gone back and be like, man, if I would just put this verbiage in, maybe it would have highlighted me just a little bit more. But that's why we're doing this, and that's why I love this kind of stuff. So it highlights that watch out for in the future.
Right. Okay, so you got some credit for it. And I wouldn't even say that it's really a big deal that it wasn't phrased better. I'm still giving you credit for it. I don't know if I would have given you more credit. However, I see people do that with really big awards, really big awards. And unfortunately, those board members are not going to have any context. And they're going to give you the lowest credit. You know, it could be flight, you know, with the way I see sometimes things phrased. So, so you want to be clear about the level, and you want to be clear about how long it was, you know, what period it was for. And if it's a big number, you want to stratify how many people you outperformed. Now, you don't want to do it if on every single accomplishment you've ever done, because it'll start getting like obnoxious where you stratify everything. But on the big ones, you want to do that. All right, so I'm going to move on. Go ahead and annotate page 4 if anyone has questions for page 4. Moving on. So you can see we blacked out all that stuff. All right. Next. His second oldest decoration. So this is from when you were security forces here at Hill. What I annotated on this was only this one thing. And when I say only this one thing, don't hear that wrong. Plenty of people have plenty of decorations and EPRs that there's nothing significant that'll move a board on them, and that's okay. Obviously, the better, but it's not like if there is a document that doesn't have much that will move a board score, that it's crap. That's a fallacy. Okay, it's not realistic. So what I annotated here, and I'll explain why, is that he developed a joint training program between the Davis County Sheriff's Office and the Special Weapons and Tactics team. So a lot of the things in here that you'll see in this decoration are the good, normal, regular things that cops are doing, but it doesn't necessarily say why he did them any better than anybody else. But this, the way I read this, I would imagine that is not something typical that every security forces person is doing, is collaborating and establishing a joint, you know, training program with the local community law enforcement outside the base. I may be wrong, but in my head, I don't picture that that's common. Okay, that doesn't seem like routine security forces type work. Okay, not even just good routine security forces. So that's why I annotated it. I'll leave this up here for just a minute. If anybody wants to take a look, page 5, and annotate any questions they have about why I didn't mention anything else. And then I'll move on. All righty, gonna move on. Okay, page 6. So this is a decoration that closed in November of 2013 from a deployment. I did not highlight anything. It's good decoration. I didn't find problems with the decoration, and it's good that he deployed. For those of you who think, well, he deployed, he should get credit for that in and of itself. Think back to yourself. Did you deploy? Almost everybody was deploying, and is deploying. So the deployments don't have the weight of what you think they do, just the fact that somebody deployed and got a decoration for it. It's just not that rare. What I do annotate in there are the accomplishments during it. Like, did they get some kind of an award? Did they do something and they give some context or metrics about why that thing is that awesome specifically? But what I see here is solid security forces work from a security forces troop who deployed, which is just, we got lots of people doing really good things. So I didn't annotate anything specifically. This didn't move the board score one way or the other. All right, moving on. An older decoration. Now, understand that even if I do highlight things in these decorations, the older they go, the weight is less because, you know, all of your cells regenerate. And, you know, the Mike Mendendorp that got this decoration, every single cell in his body is completely regenerated, and he's a completely different human being now. It's been so long. So it's not insignificant. It's not that it doesn't matter at all. But what you're looking for more in older ones, I'm looking for trends. Does it support that you were a good troop career long, or are you a Johnny come lately with, you know, with recently you've been doing good, but, you know, prior to that? But this just supports More very good, solid work at here at Hill. So nothing significant to report. I'll leave it here for another second, page 7, if anybody sees anything they want to talk about. And then he's got one more deck, and then we're on to EPRs. All right. Oh, did I skip one? Oh, that was that one. My bad. Okay. So, but did I skip one? Hang on. No, I didn't skip one. All right, we're good. All right.
Yeah, you're
so,
good.
yeah, so we're on to EPRs. And again, most recent first. So I always start reading from the back first, because the back is where all of your most significant accomplishments should be. Doesn't always work that way, and I'm not going to ignore the front. We're going to get to it, but I'm looking at the back a lot more closely. So here's what I highlighted. Earned the NCOA Top Academic Achievement Award. And I highlighted more than just the award. Graduated number 1 of 194. I like that he put the strat of how many people he outperformed here. And the reason, you don't always have to do that. If it was DG is different, because DG is 10%. It doesn't matter if there was 1,000 people in the class or 10 people. You were in the top 10%. So it doesn't matter. And you can save space. You can put it, it doesn't hurt, but it's not as necessary as if you get something like Levito Academic Achievement Award or the Commandant's, or Levito or the Commandant's Award, because those, it might be, in my NCOA class, there were 85 people, but in yours, there was 194. Number 1 of 85 is not as good as number 1 of 194. It's that much harder to do, twice as hard, whatever. So it matters sometimes if you stratify, and that was really good there. So that's a no-brainer. That's in the right place. It's a very, very big award. It speaks high, and you get good kudos for that. Then I've got Forged. Okay, so this bullet, I highlighted 2 different sections of it for 2 different reasons. The end, 360 RCG's Top Training Team Award, first and third quarters of the year. So that's good. End of the year. That's good. That's good. What could have been better about it was if, well, you can make a case, I guess. The other people on the board don't know how many squadrons there are. So, they were the best training team out of, I think group is eligible too. So, out of 9 or 10, you were the best 2 quarters and the year. Understand that the weight of a team award, the weight of a team award, if you're a team member, is not as much as it would be if you were the leader of the team. And you can't make yourself the leader, but don't overthink how valuable that is, because there were several people on that team, and for all I know as the reader, you might have been the weak link. I mean, I don't have no reason to think you were, but it's not like everybody on a winning team should automatically be promoted or get promotion points or is more qualified to be promoted because the whole team won this award. It's good. It's in the right place. It's fine that it was mentioned and all that, and you do get some credit, but not a ton. And I put forged. So I'm a recruiter. When I see that somebody forged new training docs, I'm thinking, did they get an Article 15 for forging documents? I probably wouldn't have I know what they meant. They didn't mean that the documents were forged. However, I probably wouldn't have used the expression forged. It's fine. They'll get it from context, but you want to think about what you're really writing. So anyway. All right. So I'll leave that for just another second. If anybody wants to talk about, that's page 9. And now go into page 8, the front of the EPR. Okay. I highlighted a couple things here. I highlighted down here, AFRS NCO Council President. Fantastic. That is what we're looking for our future senior NCOs to do. We're looking for them to get out of the box, to, NCO councils are the types of things different than booster clubs, which are also good, but this is stronger because first off, he's president, and it's AFRS wide, and NCO type councils are more about development than about morale. So that's great. And you see right here is really good. He quantified 62 NCO leadership development opportunities, not 62 NCOs, 62 opportunities, and grew command membership 97 to 126. The only thing I could say is maybe a better way to frame that, if during those 62 NCO leadership, if there were more than 126 people, there may have been 126 people paying dues. However, if there were 1,000 people on, like, these kinds of calls, I know we got like 50, but if there were, however many, you get credit for all that. So you actually developed. So you might want to talk about, we're talking Air Force wide. How many people are you really delivering developmental opportunities to? Potentially the whole command, every NCO. So you want to think about how to frame that right and how to phrase it correctly, or the strongest, not correctly, strongest. And then up here, I've got earned the 360 RCG's top 8R support of the third quarter award. So what I would say about that is it's buried in the front. That's a pretty strong award. If you think about the group 360 RCG top 8R, anybody, I do want somebody to chime in on this. How many recruiter 8R support are in the group-ish? All the trainers, all the ops, all the MEPs, all the group staff, the group ops folks. How many, and honestly, eligible for that aren't just tier 2s. Senior trainer is a 8R support. Ops chief is an 8R support. So think about how many people potentially you could say right here, you outperformed to win that award. And I would have liked to have seen it, because that's a big award. I would have liked to have seen that somewhere down in here or down in the final bullet. Very big award. Outperformed a lot of people at a group level. That needed to be placed better. So it's possible that the board members will not even see this. They might overlook it because they might not even look at the front. And if they do, they're skimming it, they might miss it. This is the least impactful area right here. Okay. So let's see. And then moving on. So I'll leave this here for a minute in case anybody sees anything they want to ask me about, like this kind of thing in most improved unit, for a squadron standard of excellence. I'll leave it here, and that's page 8. If anybody wants to talk about that at the end, we'll do that. Moving on. Going to page 10, which is the back of his second oldest. Whoa. Back of his second oldest EPR, right? Or page 11, rather. Okay. All right. Here's what I highlighted. Squadron's top second quarter recruiter. Okay. It's not tremendous. This isn't going to make, get somebody promoted or not, but it is, that's legit. I would have liked to have seen how many people you outperformed there, but I didn't. So hold on, I want to check something here. Okay. I think one last part, and I need to go back. That top 8R support that we talked about a minute ago on the last EPR, I don't think that was on your decoration, was it? Yeah.
No, sir, that wasn't on my decoration, nor was my NCOA award. That was things we've talked about in the past. Like, I'm kind of kicking myself that it should have been, because then it would have followed me throughout my career until, now the EPR is going to fall off eventually. Yeah.
So those are fine for now, because the board members now will see it. But when he goes for senior, those EPRs will be gone, and those accomplishments were not in the decoration. So an accomplishment that's not in the decoration will expire once it's older than 5 years worth of EPRs back. So very, very important point that I did not want to overlook. I just forgot to write it on my notes. That's all. So, all right. So top second recruiter, I would have liked to see how many recruiters you outperformed, and then go ahead and annotate page 11 if anybody sees anything else they want to ask about at the end. And on the front, I've got organized citywide flag football tournament. 15 teams, 300 participants. Okay. I highlighted that volunteer and coaching flag football, your kids' flag football, is probably not something that's going to help you. However, this is 15 teams and 300 participants. So organizing something like that, that shows, getting out of your comfort zone and doing something kind of big, especially the fact that it, raised funds. I'm more concerned on this bullet with raising funds than with gaining the leads. This feels more like less like a recruiting thing and more like a whole person-y kind of a bullet. And we're in the whole person, whole airman concept section. So I think that's good. Organizing something large like that, that's difficult. I did not highlight this Pro Soup Heavy Hitter Award of the second quarter. You might not get a little credit from a board member for it. It's buried in the wrong place. And it already kind of, you got credit for being in the second quarter, the top recruiter. And it sort of sounds a lot like the same dang thing. Top second quarter recruiter. So I'm not going to just keep giving you credit for the same thing over and over. Okay. So I'm going to leave this on the screen for a second in case anybody wants to annotate anything they want to ask me about. And then we'll move on. And we'll be at the Q&A in a minute here, in a couple minutes. All right, moving on. Page 13. Okay, the back of his EPR that closed back in late 17. Here's what I've got for this one. Commander's Achievement Award recipient for the year. This is more clear than the decoration. This says FY17, and this even says number 1 of 46 recruiters. They did the decoration right. I think they could have phrased it better. Oh, this wasn't the one that was on the deck. That's right. This wasn't the one that was on the deck. Anyway, so number 1 of 46 recruiters, that is how you want to phrase stuff. So, oh yeah, my bad. I'm confusing 2 awards. So we did talk about that on the decoration. All right, I'm getting myself mixed up. Am I on the right EPR or did I go too far ahead? That is right. Okay. All right, so blood drive. The blood drive is good. Coordinating a blood drive, that's legit. Giving blood, less so. 250 people donated. That's like a real one. Me and Mike joked about this a little bit when we did his record review. I can't imagine getting 4 leads at a blood drive. I'm trying to think of how that works. Here's some juicy cookies. And by the way, have you ever thought about, anyway, so, all right, but I think that's great because it's kind of a bigger scale. And then I highlighted this. You're not getting good credit for this. I highlighted it not for that point because I thought it was interesting. I don't know if anybody's ever been to an air show and a balloon festival, but typically the people who are coordinating the air show, if it's out of base, these are colonels and generals and stuff. Typically you don't see a tech sergeant who's, got that level of responsibility. I know as a recruiter that he actually coordinated the recruiting involvement of the air show and the balloon festival. But, you want to think about how you're writing things. Cause I see all the time that people, coordinated an air show. I see it all the time at a base, the Thunderbirds. It's like, really? I thought that, the base commander kind of has a prominent role in that as well. So anyway, that was just worth mentioning. I'll leave this up in case anybody wants to annotate anything for a question at the end. All righty then. On to the EPR that closed January of 17. We'll look at the back of it. Okay, here's what I highlighted. First off, obviously, a must promote. It still carries weight, even if as long as it's in those last 5 years worth of EPRs, because it does support that year, your squadron leaders or whoever the force distribution authorities were felt, good, strongly about you compared to your peers. They only get a certain amount of those. So obviously you got something right. Now, it's got more weight if the EPR that it's with is strong, but even if it doesn't, it has some weight. And even if it's far back, it supports that whole, like I was talking about, the pattern of outstanding activity year after year after year. So that's very good. I also highlighted the Superintendent Achievement Award recipient in the third quarter. So that probably needed to have been on the decoration. The only time you wouldn't put things like this on the decoration is just you ain't got no room because the bigger stuff is on there. But he had room on the decoration. So that's a missed opportunity right there. That's a big award. Superintendent Achievement Award. It's the, second highest ranking, well, not ranking, but, kind of prominent position in a squadron. And they only got 4 quarters in a year. So you outperformed a lot of people to get that award. So I would have liked to see that on the decoration. I think that was a missed opportunity. And then, so that's what I got on the, I got my highlight on. How did I do that? My bad. So now looking at the front of it. So if anybody has any questions like Silver Badge that they want to talk about at the end, or Top Flight Recruiter that they want to talk about at the end, annotate page 15. Looking at the front of it, page 14, the only thing I highlighted on this was top-notch supervisor. It's an exact copy and paste. I won't scroll up. You'll have to trust me. But that whole bullet is an exact copy and paste from the 2007 November EPR. So 2 EPRs with the exact same EPR written. I think the numbers were different, but that's it. That'll get noticed, and that does not speak really all that great for how focused your leadership team was on a good quality EPR for you. So I don't want to overdo what a repeat bullet is, the weight of it, but it can hurt you. It can hurt you. So I want everybody to notice on this page what I did not highlight. So again, this is page 14, and we can talk about it at the end. Anything you see on here, but I will call attention to, I did not highlight, I will now, his bachelor's degree and his CCAF and his recruiting cert. First off, everybody gets certified, but at the end, we could talk about that if anybody wants to, okay? All righty. So moving on. This is the last 2 EPRs, and then we're at the questions. All right. I know everybody sees that first highlight, and their eyes are popping out of their head. Oh my God, he got him marked down. He got him marked down. All right. So 2 things on actually, I wanted to go to the back of the EPR first. My bad. Back of the EPR. Look, I'm marked down here too. All right. And I know I'm saying it's a markdown, and I'm saying it's a markdown on purpose because I'm going to come back to that in a second. So I didn't highlight anything else on the back of the EPR. So take a look if you see anything that you want to ask me about why. But I want to talk about this. It's not a markdown. And the board members, you got to have a little faith that they will not view that as a markdown. If you have a ton of these, it's a message. But if you've got onesies and twosies scattered on your EPRs here and there, even on your current ones, they will not kill you. I mean, he's got here and here. And yeah, okay, it's not his most recent EPRs, but it's the one right before he got a must promote. So I got to imagine he was still doing probably a good job that year. We are trying to encourage supervisors to not firewall everybody. And we are not going to kill you if you have onesies and twosies here and there. Now, if you start coming over in this area, that's a little bit of a different message, the Met all, but a scattered exceeded sum here and there is not going to make that big of a difference. So it's really not going to make a difference. So I wouldn't lose sleep over that. All right. Now,
I know the first time when we did this, sir, you were also saying that they put into account the year that was done. was because they just changed the EPR system, and even supervisors were trying to figure out how they were actually supposed to be grading people and couldn't firewall everybody. So
Yep. So yeah, it has particularly low weight on the older EPRs, but even on the new ones. I mean, I sat on the board, it was last year, and I saw some that their top EPR had them, and they still got a good score. Because I'm not thinking, oh, this person had a problem. I'm thinking there's a supervisor who understands that everyone isn't perfect, and I didn't give him, there was zero ding, zero loss of it. Now, again, if I get, firewall the other way, firewall middle somewhere or something like that, that's a different kind of a thing. But I got no problem with a person not being perfect. And so won't the board members. All right. So the thing on the front of this EPR that I highlighted was, if you'll read this, it was a balloon fest and air show, and there were over 180,000 people there with 1,200 leads. Scroll down. Balloon fest, 150,000 people. So between here and here, 30,000 people had to head to their car and go home. And 1,200 leads up here and 983. So is it possible this is a different balloon festival? Sure. But it's not really how it sounds. It sounds like it's probably the same one. I might have gone out of my way in that kind of to maybe put the name. Normally I wouldn't put the name of one, but in here, you might want to put the names in there to kind of call attention to, I'm not kind of mixing up my facts. All right. So that's it for that one. If anybody has any questions, annotate page 16 and we can talk about why I didn't. And then we're just about done. I'll say a couple words when we're done, and then we'll open up to questions. Going to the back of his oldest EPR. This will be gone for his next board, but we're still going to look at it because it was there for the board he just met. I did not highlight anything on this one. So if you all want to take a look and annotate page 19, if you see something you want to ask me about. And then the front. And I did not annotate anything. So you all can take a look and see if you see anything on page 18 you want to ask about. Okay, the one thing I want to talk about, which I said I would, I pointed out that I did not give him any credit for that bachelor's degree and associate's degree. If you'll notice, scrolling back up to the front, and it's my bad, I meant to mention it while we were there. You will notice on this that nowhere on this report does it say education or PME. Nowhere on here does it have education level. When you're going for senior or chief, it will be there. So education matters. And when you're going for 1206s in your squadron or group or wherever you're working, education matters. And just being more developed and learning things and growing, education matters. So I don't want you to hear it wrong. But on a master sergeant promotion board from tech to master, it's masked. It's masked, and it's masked on purpose. They actually told us the only time you should give credit for education is if they could show how they leverage their education specifically to their job. Now, their job could be not necessarily as a recruiter or a CST or a personnelist. Their job as an airman. It could be specific to your AFSC. It could be specific to you being an airman and how you mentor people. But I've seen bullets that say got a degree or took a class and leveraged their education for in their duty center, but it didn't say how. So I give zero credit for that. It's like, you're gonna have to show me like you took an Excel class, great, but did you use it to create a document that was then benchmarked or save money or something like that? I'll give you credit, but I won't give you credit just for obtaining education, not going for master. And this can change. They didn't always mask it, and now they are, and who knows what the future holds. But because it's masked, there might be people that I reviewed their records and they came in with a master's degree before their last 6 EPRs, And so it's not going to be in their EPRs, and it's masked on this document. So I would never know. So I'm not going to give you credit for doing something that somebody else may have done, and I didn't even know it. They may already have it. So sorry if my phone was going off there. So anyway, so that's why I didn't give him credit, and I did mean to circle back to that. I meant to talk about it while I was on this. So that's my whole spiel. I'm going to go ahead and minimize the documents, and I'm going to come back into the room. How do I stop sharing here? Did I stop sharing yet? No?
No, you're still sharing.
Click the button.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Sorry, everybody. All right. So are there any people still left on? Any participants? Oh, yeah. People are still here. Cool. All right. So I'm going to go on mute and wait for one of you guys to either. I would love it if the people that have questions ask the question, actually turn their mic on and camera if they feel like it. Or you can read them, but I like to see who's asking the question if possible.
I got a couple for you, Chief.
All right. Anybody else have a question? What's up, Ricky? Go ahead.
So I noticed when you were going through there, it's kind of a couple of them. From the board setup, could you describe how it's broken down between like support, ops, maintenance, and who sits on and reviews the records? Because I don't think some people may think that there's nobody in their career field reviewing their records. Maybe it's, maybe someone's not there. So I was wondering you could dive in a little bit on that.
I'd be happy to. So, and that's part of a different brief that I do, and it's related to this. I didn't do a deep dive just because I figured at the end if somebody wanted to talk about it. But essentially, there are 15-ish panels. Each panel is 2 chiefs and a colonel, and can you guys hear me? Because I know Wingender's frozen, but you guys hear me okay? Okay. So, so there's 2 chiefs and a colonel, and they give you a bunch of AFSCs to grade. And all people from within an AFSC are graded by the same panel. So it's not like you get people with different values in a year. So like I would grade all of the recruiters, but the way they grouped it was they would group it by kind of functionality. Like if you think MAJE almost, all medical were boarded by one panel. So all medical AFSCs, and they had, I think, like however many, I think there's like 15 or 20 or whatever medical AFSCs. And the 2 biggest AFSCs are how they determine within each panel, or how they determine which 2 chiefs will be there. So our panel, so then all the maintainers, all the different maintenance jobs, there's a ton of AFSCs. They break them up, they figure out a fair share. So there's more than one panel because there's so many maintainers, and they all fall in with a few panels. And the 2 biggest AFSCs from within there, it might be crew chief and avionics. Those are the ones who get an AFSC representation to chief. The other ones do not. They do not. So my panel graded, we graded 1,800 records, just about. It was, I think, 20 different AFSCs. It was all special duties. So we graded all recruiters, TIs, MTLs, MTMs, who else? Tech school instructors, postal, enlisted aid, band, honor guard, all the special duties. And the 2 biggest AFSCs from that panel will probably never change because the structure would have to completely change, was a recruiter. There were 580 recruiters, and TIs. I don't remember how many, but that was the 2nd biggest AFSC. So there was a TI on the panel, there was a recruiter on the panel, and there was a 06 from who knows where. I think my guy was contracting, but they could be from anywhere, the 06. So you must always assume when you are crafting bullets and decorations that the reader, 2 out of 3 of them, will not have been a recruiter ever and probably knows nothing about recruiting. So you must think about that in your writing, not just for them to understand, but you have to think about the context of, if I phrase it right, will they know why it's important, why it's better than what the next record they're about to read will be. Why is this one different from all the others? So you could say 130% NEC. That's great. But if you don't tell me that's the best that zone has ever done, or that it's the best in your squadron, or it's the best in your group and how many people are in your group, think about non-recruiters and what they can know. And will they understand what a RAL is? Do they understand the significance of a MEP success rate? Those kinds of things. So you want to have context. Did I answer your question okay, Greg?
Yes, sir. That was spot on what I was looking for. I was trying to see if you would go into detail with that, because I see a lot of packages and EPRs from recruiters, and not being a recruiter, it's hard to understand and read them. And so that's what I try to explain to people. But my next question, I sent it to you in a message, but also like the tech sergeant ready now, I think was on page 12 or 13 in that last final bullet. Are those still allowed, or are they still not considered push statements? I know veiled promotion statements aren't allowed in future duties, but can that hinder or hurt the bullet or waste space, or what would you recommend for those that include stuff like that?
My bad, I forgot to unmute. What page?
I believe it was 12 or 13. It was one of the future ones. I think it said Tech Sergeant ready now.
Can you all see?
Yes.
Tech Sergeant well deserved, or?
Well deserved, yeah. So
okay,
is that,
well,
are those types of push statements still authorized for EPRs, or should that be something we try to avoid?
well, okay. So first off, this one specifically, he already made tech, and they're saying he was spot on that he was selected for tech, which you see commonly, and I think is a waste of space. You don't need to sell me that, you're already going for master. I don't need to know about, that it was right that 4 years ago you were promoted to tech, so it's a little bit of a waste of space. It doesn't hurt anything, but not necessary. However, yes, you can say things like, a commander could say, if I had one more force distro to give, this person would get it. They could say, absolutely, already acting like a master sergeant, ready to be promoted. Promote this board, that kind of thing. They can absolutely, there was nothing illegal about that. There was for a short time. And then now if you look in the AFI, you won't find anything that says you can't do that. You can't do something that is stratting someone outside of your purview. So like a commander can't say, this is the sharpest tech sergeant in the group, but they could say, this is the sharpest tech sergeant in my squadron. So yeah, you can have those kinds of things, absolutely promote now. I was trying to get my commander 1 year when I was going for chief to make my final thing. Because you got to remember, they're talking to a board member. I was trying to get her to say, promote to chief before you finish that cup of coffee, but she wouldn't do it. Anyway, so yeah, you can absolutely have those kinds of things.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Chief.
You're welcome. Oh, and I should say more, not just that you can. You do get a sense when you're on the board of commanders and their how much they're doing that. If you see commanders doing that over and over, the value of it is gone. So, you don't want to, the commander wouldn't want to do that for everybody. They want all their people promoted. Let's just have a strong, they should save it. Because when I saw one, every once in a while, you'd see one where they'd be like, this person is a phenom. And they didn't get a force distro. So it doesn't really match. But they're limited on how many they get. Yeah, talk to me a little bit in this bullet right here, this bottom bullet. Talk to me about how great this person really is. This is the commander talking to the board member directly. So here's your bottom line. Why should I promote this person? Right here in that bullet. Okay? All right, next question. And by the way, you don't have to, if people have questions, you don't have to turn your camera on. But at least if you could do it by voice.
Hey, Chief, can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's up, Sergeant?
Hey, Chief. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having this call. It's been very insightful. Thank you for breaking everything down. And whoever agreed that you can show their actual live stuff, thank you for that as well. You were talking about that there's the last 5 EPRs. I've heard some conflicting information. Is it the last 3 or last 5?
All right, so force distro, this is in the AFI. So it's not a judgment thing. In the force distro is a 3-year look. So the squadron, when they're determining who gets a promote now and a must promote, and I really want to encourage you all to learn these things. This is important to your career and understanding how they are. And even as a supervisor, those kinds of things, for the master sergeants and seniors and chiefs that might be on here, or CGOs, or whoever's on here, you should understand it. And it's right in the AFI, it talks about what we can look at and what we can't. So it's a 3-year look for force distro, but it's a 5-year, and it's important. 3 years and 5 years for promotion, not documents, because you could get multiple. If you're promoted, you're going to get 2 in a year, or if you get a command directed one for some reason, or, there can be a reason. So, but yeah, it's 3 for force distro, 5 years for promotions.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome. And thank you for calling in poolside. I know when people don't turn their camera on, what's going on. Okay, do we have any more?
Hey, Chief, Sergeant Casey. Had a couple questions for you. On page 8,
what's going on?
and I'm not sure if you had mentioned it and I missed it, the NCO president bullet that was on the front of that EPR, would you say that one should have been on the back potentially? I believe like the second bullet on the back didn't have anything identified.
Yeah, bullet placement is important, and it's important for everybody to understand when you're thinking about the back of your EPR, philosophically, EPR, I mean, this is all philosophical and psychological, that kind of thing. The board members are looking at the back for the most important stuff. So there is no way you can't say that a thing necessarily should be on the front or the back. It depends on what else you got. In that case, yeah, there was room, and I could pull it up if you all want, but it's really not necessary because of concept. If you need to think about it like this: what am I putting on the CPR, and which one of these things is the board most likely to give weight to? That needs to be most important on like that final bullet, and then work backwards in order of importance. And you can group things, you can combine things. And you should work backwards. So in that case, it would have been better in the back. I do think it would be noticed in the front because most board members are not looking at the front at all, and they probably will see it. But it's possible they can miss it. It is impossible to miss it if it's in the back. So anything that you absolutely want to ensure won't get missed, put it on the back. If the best thing you have is that you are the flight recruiter of the month, you're not getting promoted. However, that's the thing that you put on the back of your EPR. Whatever's the strongest, whatever your strongest accomplishments are, and think of it from the context of a board member, that why should I promote you? Let me look at the back of your EPR. Okay.
All right, thanks, Chief. And I'll be your Huckleberry. I know you mentioned a couple of times standard of excellence and flight top recruiter, and nobody's asked that question, but I didn't see any of that stuff highlighted. Why not?
All right, so I'm going to start with silver badge on that one, and then I'll go to those because it's similar answer. Silver badge. Everybody's happy when they get a silver badge. Every time I got a silver badge and walked across the stage, I was happy. I was proud. I smiled and cheesed for the camera and all that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with getting a silver badge. It's great getting a silver badge. I graded 580 recruiters in a row. So these answers are going to tie in, silver badge and the specific ones you mentioned. 580 recruiters, 6 EPRs from almost all of them. How many silver badges you think I could have counted? Silver badges, while they are good, and while not everybody gets them, they certainly aren't rare enough that I could really be like, whoa, this person got a silver badge. They really outperform most of their peers. They were in the top half, 3/4 at S Squadron. It's clear that's how many people are getting silver badges. So standard of excellence. What else did you group with that? Standard of excellence and what else?
Like top flight recruiter for the quarter, or even top flight recruiter for the year, for that matter.
All right. So top flight, flights are very small. You could quickly learn that. Even the non-recruiters will quickly get from context that there are not a lot of, hey, Sergeant Hammond, I see you. So, flight level awards, honestly, even if you got flight recruiter of the year, you were the best out of like, 5 people and, 6 people maybe. It's honestly, and then when you see flight of the quarter or the month, I mean, almost everybody should get a flight of the quarter every year because, it's 4 or 5, 6 people, whatever. So the weight of a flight award is not the same as it would be in security forces where the flights are giant, something like that. Recruiting, it's pretty clear that the flights are small. So a flight award, I would not put. Same thing like monthly awards.
So basically you're saying that's in terms of like the flight awards, that's space that we can better utilize with quantifiable data and impact.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the best you got, it's the best you got. Don't get me wrong. But the weight of it won't be like, squadron is now you compete against 45 people, whatever, or group or higher. I'm not saying don't put it on EPR, but I would hope you have something stronger than to put on the, on the back. But at the end of the day, whatever's the strongest.
Yes, sir.
Wait, let me finish Standard of Excellence. Standard of Excellence Award. Top flight, Standard of Excellence, top squadron, things like that. When you are a team member, if your squadron wins, first of all, Standard of Excellence, I don't know how many. Maybe somebody on here knows how many squadrons won it last year, but it is like the silver badge for squadrons. So you see on every EPR and every decoration, the squadron Standard of Excellence, and that's good. But I'll tell you who it's really good for. It's good for your commander and for your pro suit. And even for them, it's not that uncommon. Now, top squadron, that's different. But you as an airman, as a tech sergeant, you're one of like 60 people who contributed to that thing. Unless the bullet says the overwhelming primary reason, like this, we would not have got this award without that person. Not just key contributor, or, it would have to say like you were the reason the whole unit got this award, which is rare. That's never really the case. So the value of it is just not what people think it is. And it's good to be in decks and it's good to be in EPRs. And I did this. I apologize to all you troops out there who were my troops that I let this get through, because I did it too. I didn't know this or think about it in this way until I was on the board. But a bullet like that, we were putting them as the final bullet. This person is the Mac Daddy. They were 125% for the year. They were a key contributor to the squadron earning the Standard of Excellence. So was everybody else in your squadron. So it's a waste of valuable real estate. I want to know about you. Now, if you won something for your whole squadron, yeah, that's where I want to see it. But that's not really ever the case. But if you're the best in your squadron, that's where that goes. So it's a waste of valuable real estate. It's not that it's bad to put anywhere. It's just the placement. We waste valuable space when we put that stuff where we can have. I've written decorations where we were rewriting it, and there was so many individual awards, really good things and accomplishments, awards and accomplishments and those kinds of things, that I actually told them delete Squadron Standard of Excellence altogether out of this decoration. Because nobody's getting promoted. Nobody's getting a half a point out of that. But, they'll forget somebody's academic achievement award in a deck, but they'll put their Squadron Standard of Excellence. So, Ged, what's up?
Hey,
Hello, Chief.
Chief Frommer.
Oh, yes, sir. Who is that, Chief?
Hey, brother,
Robert
Chief
T.
Todd.
Oh, hey, what's up, Chief Todd? What's going on?
Hey, I'm only on here for a short period of time. I don't want to override anything you're saying, but I will say that Standard of Excellence, that was asked by the colonel that sit on this recent board, and I happen to be the 8R chief on this Master Sergeant panel.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so the 06 literally raised a hand and asked the recorder of, hey, what is this Standard of Excellence? Because I'm seeing it in every EPR. And so the recorder looks to me, and so I obviously answered the question. And I explained the criteria for Standard of Excellence. And I also noted that 26 out of 28 eligible AFRS squadrons received Standard of Excellence. And so the colonel looked at me and said, oh, okay, cool. That means if everybody's excellent, nobody's excellent.
Wait, how many?
26 out of 28, I think it was.
Oh, my God. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to highlight that. There was one squadron, and I will never point them out because I can't as a board member, But there was one squadron that on the additional Raiders comments, Section 8, both bullets at the end of them, one impact had to deal with them winning the Flight Center of Excellence, and the other one, the second bullet, said one contributed to Squadron Center of Excellence, and they spelled it out. So how you just said about killing real estate, every member of that squadron had the same identical bullet. And so literally there was no value added to me as a board member in reading that because it didn't speak to what the member did. So I just want to throw that out there on the standard of excellence stuff.
Oh, that's great. So Chief Todd, I didn't know who was on, and I kept thinking we need to find out. So you outed yourself. You're about to get famous. Would you chime in about any of the things that I've said that you felt either different or that you want to reinforce? Because you're more relevant than I am right now.
Okay. I'll give you this one disclaimer. I'm kind of on standby for something else. So if I drop off, I have to go. But no, Matt, I really second everything that you've said so far. There's certain things to where you've got to speak to what that person has done. There's too many squadrons out there that do just kind of blanket approach on stuff. I will say that you need to quantify awards, just like you said before, because, the other two panel members, they may not be an 8R or have no experience. So they don't know what a bronze Olympiad is, what a silver Olympiad is. But if you could quantify that and speak to it, maybe you're only one of two recruiters to receive the gold Olympiad. Spell that out, because that will carry a lot more than just saying that you were awarded a coveted AFRS Bronze Olympiad. And you're like, okay, cool. I've been reading this consistently throughout all these other records. That just sounds like a silver badge to me, which I'm not even clear on as a board member. Yes, I know some of that stuff going into the panel, but the other two panel members, they don't. And because they start seeing this over and over again throughout all these Texarn EPRs, it just falls right back in line with the whole standard of excellence thing again. I've seen EPRs, you were talking about placement. I remember reading one of the Texarn's EPRs, and the fact that he was a squadron gold badge winner, you know where that was buried at? In the front. And I will say that an EPR, yes, we read it from the back up, and it's just like an interesting book. If nothing is catching my attention in the back, how much time am I going to use reading the front? Now, did I skim? As a chief, I'm going to do my due diligence. I skimmed through the front, but unless something was really catching my attention, bro, I was clicking average and moving on to the next Bubba, because I had 574 records to evaluate on your panel.
Dang, man, am I glad you chimed in. You are going to be famous because now all these people know who they need to ask. All right, anything else, man? I'll tell you what, that's gold that you're on here and you just spoke up. What else? You got anything else? Because I'm gonna reinforce. I know you got limited time. I'm gonna reinforce that whole context thing. How many people did you beat? Concept. You got anything else you throw in there that you think I missed that's real important?
No, man. Like I said, I don't want to jump over, man. It's your professional development seminar there. I wanted to really just kind of listen in, look at where my recruiters who were attending, Sarnam Hammond, shout out for that badass mask you're wearing. Ham is one of my boys. So, but I will say that last bullet for the commander section, I had a one-on-one with my commander here recently, and I told the boss, I'm like, boss, you really need to start personalizing these bullets. That last bullet that's yours need to speak to what that individual has done and what he is capable of doing. Stop with just the whole blanket, earn silver badge, advanced squadron to number 1 of 9 is a top squadron. Okay, got it, but you're not speaking to what that individual's leadership capabilities are. I want to know that you are capable of performing in that next grade. Tell me how that individual is capable. You mentioned that one bullet about if I only had one more force distribution allocation. I actually seen this most recent panel that carried a ton of weight, because we know darn well.
You gotta take that, man.
No, that's my wife.
You gotta take that, man.
We know darn well. Yeah, I know. We know darn well that force distribution is extremely limited. here with our squadron, yeah, we get the 1 promote now and 2 must promotes. And there are a couple other tech sergeants out there that, man, I really wanted them to see that must promote. But the commander just simply couldn't, he didn't have the allocation, period. But if the commander could speak to that, that will carry some weight on that panel member, that are actually grading through there, especially the consistency of it, because maybe you didn't get must promote this year or promote now. But if you're saying that, if your commander is capturing that in there, if you're worthy of it, not everybody is, and and maybe next year, guess what? Maybe you don't get to must promote or promote now again. But if your commander at that point in time is also saying the same daggum thing, that is a very consistent message. I mean, this panel, I actually seen tech sergeants in there that had back-to-back promote now EPRs and a must promote behind that. And they had not been selected yet. Now, I pretty much guarantee you they got it this year. The years prior was because we still were doing the test scores and stuff. So now, you got 3 panel members that are deciding your fate. And so whatever words you put in that EPR, your leadership, I'm a big advocate of write your own daggum EPR. I've written all of mine throughout my entire career because I want to speak to what my capabilities are. But yeah, you've got to personalize that a little bit more. One of my biggest complaints that recruiters talk about, well, we all do the same thing. I'm like, across the playing field, you all pretty much have the same level of responsibility, but it's what you choose to do with that responsibility. That's where I need to capture an action. So.
Awesome stuff. Thank you. So yeah, and I will tell you, as EPRs are getting written, and they're coming up for my review, I will recommend for the ones that just missed Force Distro to get. I'll talk to the commander and say, okay, here's your short list, and here's the ones who made the final list. Those other ones that you just didn't have enough stripes. Let's craft their final push statement. But not everybody. I'm not letting other stuff get through. On the other folks, because then it has no meaning. So, and you're relying on every unit to do it the right way. So, all right. So,
hey, excuse me, Chief. I got a quick question for you.
Hey, what's up, bro?
This Sergeant Hart. Hey, on the average, and this for Chief Todd as well. On the average, how long did you think it took to grade pretty much each record, give or take?
Hey, Chief Todd, why don't you go first if you're still there?
That's almost like a trick question. I would tell you, when you first get into the boardroom and you first start grading, you take your time. I tended to start taking a lot of notes, and I found out real quick that there's not enough time to take notes. Take notes more towards grade panel stuff, but that's for a separate discussion. So I would tell you my average was about 3 minutes, 5 minutes if you had interesting records. And so just think about that, 3 minutes for the average tech sergeant and 5 minutes for, I'm like, ooh, wow, this is pretty hot. Now, if it fell into the gray panel, and let me tell you, there was a ton of gray panels. My panel, I don't know what it was, but for some reason we had the first gray panel going on inside the room. Then we had the first gray split panel. It got interesting. I'm like, man, we need to stop being the first. But so yeah, 3 to 5 minutes for its promotion scoring. When it got into the gray panel, then it started tapping into the 5 to 7 minutes because we started digging into the weeds a little bit more. Because gray panels, they come back. Hey, cool, you got gray panel. Here's 25 records to read, and 11 stripes. And sometimes with the board members and gray panel, all we did was not look at any previous notes. We literally just live graded them again. But you just dug a little bit deeper and you assigned a score again. There was a couple times where we went into like a triple gray panel to whittle out that process. We even got down to the point of we had a yes/no panel. And I'm not too many of y'all are too familiar with that, but it really came down to there was 1 stripe, 2 final people. And as a panel member, I literally clicked yes on one record and no on the other record. And let me tell you, I was digging deep. I mean, I was reading decoration citations, which, oh, by the way, dear God, if you have military citations and you log into the system right there and you cannot read them or they're not there, you need to get them in there. Because guess what? They didn't happen. sorry, here's the ugly truth. If you got a joint service combination medal and the only thing I see is a publishing order, okay, you got it, whatever. I mean, it carried no weight because I was not able as a panel member to read the context of what you accomplished. So please, I know we beat on this drum all the time because the panel members, I don't know how many times I raised my hand and said, hey, this one says he's got an MSM or 2 combination medals, and all I see is achievement medal. And they'll dig into the AFPC, will dig into their system and say, sorry, Chief, we don't have the citations for that. Grade the record as is. And we just keep pressing. So please have those citations in there.
Awesomeness. Yeah, and I'll echo 4 minutes average. I did the math. It comes to 4 minutes. So like he said, some a little longer, some a little shorter, 4 minutes average. So that's consistent. That'll always be that way. That's how much time. And it is enough time. For those of you who think this is a bad system because you don't have enough time, it's plenty of time because you could pretty quickly get a sense of who you need to spend more time on and who, if they get promoted, how much time do I really need it? You could see, sometimes you could see right away somebody won't be in the running. So does it matter almost, how detailed I get? So yes. And for those of you who want a deeper dive brief on the promotion board process itself, the mechanics, I did a couple recently for like semi-annuals, but if you guys want to set one up, I'm sure Chief Todd would be glad to do it, or I'll do it, or we could both do it together. And we could do a deep dive on the mechanics, how split works, how it's resolved, the panel members, how many records, all those kinds of things. And how just so everybody knows how to get a board score, very simple. Every panel member can give you between a 6 and a 10 with half-point increments. I can give you a 7.5 is average. If you take all 3 board members, whatever they give you, add it up, multiply it by 15, always multiply it by 15, that's your board score, period. All right. So, more questions?
Sir, it's Sergeant McKay. We've got one in the chat. Just says, decorations are not on Prada. How would the member make sure they get added so they are reviewed?
Get with your personnel. Personnel still help.
And then I did have one, sir. Is there, or are there certain categories or boxes that, each board member is looking for that have been checked for someone on their records?
So there isn't a like go no go like the old days with like you have to have your PME, your CCAF. Those days are kind of gone. So it's much more subjective. So I would say there may be some board members who personally have some things that they're like, you're not getting a good board score with me if I don't see this. But I don't think I could say that I believe that there would be an across the board answer to that. That doesn't feel right. And because board members are so different and we have different value. So like, PME award as an example, there could be a board member that's like, I'm only given a 9 if I see a Levito. And there could be other people who are like other board members who may be like, PME awards, I've never been a fan. Maybe they didn't get them. Maybe they just did get them, but still think they're overrated. And it may not be that important to them. So I don't think, I don't think there's probably too many that like that. And I wouldn't think most board members would have I need to see this or else they're not getting a good board score from me. Because the records are so varied, so I don't think so. And I know I didn't.
Cool, thank you.
Cool, you're welcome. What else? We got other questions? Well, while we're waiting to see if anybody else chimes in, because I'm going to stay on until everybody's off. So I'll be here to answer any questions until everybody's gone. But a concept I want to drive home, 2 things. And I didn't really mention this when I looked at that first record that shows the decorations. It is true that if you PCS without a decoration, it reflects poorly. Or with a downgraded decoration, like most staffs and techs usually are getting a comm. They're not rank associated, but usually staffs and techs are doing the kind of job that gets a comm. and usually masters and above are getting, you know, an MSM. It's just more the responsibility that goes with the job that those people have. But if you PCS without a decoration or with a downgraded decoration, it does hurt you. However, it hurts less and less as time goes by. Anybody could have a bad tour, or maybe, you know, your unit just dropped the ball. You get a little bit for the doubt. But if it's your top one, if I see that you PCSed recently and you got an achievement medal and you're in recruiting, it is easy to know that the norm is a comm for a recruiter or a tier 2. So that's going to stand out. It's going to stand out. It's going to hurt you. It's going to be pretty tough to overcome something like that. Now, if we see you just PCSed, you probably won't get hit for that, because you get a little wiggle room. If all your documents are good, but no decoration, and you just PCS recently, maybe your old unit's a little slow, you know, and they're still working it. You get a little benefit of the doubt when areas are, you know, tie usually goes to the runner, but sometimes the records support it. You know, your EPR's got a little trouble and you didn't get a decoration 2 tours back, and now you start to get a sense of, okay, that's why. So I meant to talk about that. And the other thing I want to talk about real quick is context. So Chief Todd talked about it, and I mentioned it. We are looking at 2 things, right? We're looking to see if you're ready to be a senior NCO and lead teams. So leading, if you can prove to me that you've demonstrated leadership stuff, obviously I can have more faith that you are ready to take a leadership role as a senior NCO. But there's lots of people, there's way more people that could be promoted to Master Sergeant than stripes. So I'm not judging you on, are you ready? I'm judging you on, are you more ready? So you need to look around your left and your right, around the command, around your AFSC, in any AFSC, even if you're going back, you know, to your old, this holds true everywhere. You need to look around at your peers within your AFSC and say, not just would a board member think I'm ready, but would a board member think I'm more ready than most of my peers? And why? What in my records, because they don't know you. All they know is your records. What in my records would make them think that? So as you're crafting stuff, that leads into the context. If you tell me that you are I'm trying to think of a good example. If you tell me, Chief Todd had a great example. If you tell me that you got a silver Olympiad, it's for shipping, what, 50? That's great. But you need to tell me how many people you outperformed to get this, you know, how many other people got it. Because for all I know, you know, I got 580 records and people get different ones to different years and all that kind of stuff. Everything needs to have context. Now, everything doesn't need to have context. I phrased that poorly. For it to have maximum weight, it needs to have context. You can't make stuff up. So there may be no context to add that makes it a promotable bullet. However, if you've got something that you think this was really good, this was better than most people, you need to communicate to a non-recruiter, someone who's never been a recruiter before and knows nothing about recruiting. Not just what you won, and not even why you won it, but how special it is. How special it is. Context. We always talk about EPR bullets and decorations need to have metrics. They need to quantify, but we fall short of communicating that accurately. To really drive that point home, you need to give a metric and then explain the metric, give it context. And context doesn't have to be how good you did against your peers. Context could be how good you did against your own historical performance. If your MEP success rate is 83%, that is nothing to write home about, unless it's the best in the squadron or the best in the group or the best that your zone has ever produced in the last 10 years. Show why you are doing something better than what everybody else is doing, not just that you're doing something good. There's a difference between doing something good and doing something better than everybody else. Not the same thing. Don't mix those up. Okay, that's my soapbox. So we're an hour and a half in. I have all day for this. I'll stay on as long as till the last person is on. I'll be the last person to log off. So if you got questions, ask them. If not, it's up to you all. And I can get my harmonica if anybody. No, I won't get my.
We have one in the chat. So why do you think there are more first and second time testers getting promotion statements and being promoted? Also, what message does it send to older tech sergeants when this information is released?
Okay, so that's a little squishy, but I can't. All right. In the old days, and don't get me wrong, thank God for the old days, or else right now A1C Frommer would be giving you this briefing. But in the old days, your records got better with time, even if you didn't change anything, because everybody's EPR was a wash. Everybody's EPR was a wash. Everybody got 5s unless you got a DUI or failed a PT test. So we all got 5s. We all got decorations, and there was no board, and you got time and grade and time and service. So points and decoration points. So you would gradually, your records would get better, even though you didn't get better, but your records did. But now, if you've got somebody who's getting the forced distro, they're getting it because they've got special things in their records. And if you have been around a hot minute since we've had boards and you are not improving your records, they are not maturing. They're more like cheese than wine, I guess, or I don't know. Maybe it's a bad example, but they won't get better with time if you don't change something. Fresh, new, young people with energy that are looking for innovative things, and people that got a forced distro when they were a staff, they were sharp. They were the sharpest person, or among the sharpest people when they were a staff, and then they got promoted that way. What's going to happen when they're a tech? They're still that same person. They're still that same person. They're probably still being real sharp. If you are pretty good, but you're keeping your head low and you're staying out of trouble, but you're not really making a name for yourself, and you're not getting famous with your, in a good way, with your squadron leadership, why would they give you a forced distro when this fresh, new, first-time person just came up with all this energy? And yeah, not every first-time, promotion-eligible person has that. However, plenty of them do. And nothing's changed with you. You're just keeping your head low and doing the same old, same old. But then you get people like the organizers of this event. People who are getting out of the comfort zone. They're doing things to broaden. They're getting their own development by running this, because they're learning how to run a thing like this, and they're delivering all this mentorship to you guys. Somebody typed in here, "This is gold." So the person who typed in "this is gold" thinks this is great. They think this is great because it was delivered to them by some tech sergeants. So you get my point? If you are the message, I guess, the message to really answer the question to the people who are not getting forced distro year after year, but want it, or not getting promoted, if you don't change something, our view of you won't change. There will always be somebody new coming up who's doing amazing things. It's different. It's different. We are promoting, and I don't want to dismiss your experience. I don't want to dismiss that. There is a lot of credibility, a lot of reason to that a person has experience. There is goodness in that. But the reason they took away the time and grade and the time and service is because not all experience is good experience. And if you've got lots of years in, but you're not winning a bunch of awards, I'm not saying your experience is bad, but you got lots of people who are coming up that are winning stuff. They're outperforming you. They just got in the game and they're already outperforming you. And they may not be outperforming you, but you know what? Maybe they are only because they wrote a 1206 and you didn't. I don't know. I don't know. There's all kinds of, reasons for things out there. But the message is get in the game. The message is the game has changed. You need to change with it. That's my message to you, I guess. Or else accept it, but which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But if you want to get promoted, you got to look to your left and your right and say, okay, if these people are doing this, I got to do more, or at least as much. So I would love it if one of the chiefs or chief selects or somebody wants to chime in on that and give an answer from their perspective on that answer I just gave.
All right, it's Chief Todd. I'll do final comments before I got to bounce out of here. Yeah, I've seen that. We've seen that as a panel as well, to where you got to remember, this is the first year to where it was the actual first promotion board. to where the panel members ultimately decided, your score, and that score decided really whether or not you were going to get promoted or not. And so, for example, earlier I mentioned that I looked at a TSgt GPR that had a promote now on top, a promote now below that, a must promote below that. That's an example of, people were testing before as well. That doesn't exist anymore. Not for you progressing to Master Sergeant. So that played a small influence as well. But as Cory said, it's spot on. There are some people that their records simply say maintained. And there are other people that said created, advanced. When I'm a panel member, and this is just my view, I'm a big process improvement person. Did you just come in there and maintain the status quo, or did you advance your people, your processes, your squadron? What did you do to enhance the environment around you? Operationally, morale, everything, your community, what did you do to enhance versus just simply maintain? And we do have, there were some TSgt records that I read that, they did their job. I'll just keep using that word maintain. They maintain. Well, you maintain, that's why you get your pay and entitlements. Just straight up. Sorry, I'm an old school chief. I just call it like it is. Cuss, rant, rave, all of the good stuff. But there are others that are hungry. And, and I could respect being hungry. I made staff, tech, master first time. I was hungry as hell. I flew through the ranks. And we pick up on that stuff. But it's all about people who are advancing themselves and, more importantly, advancing others. That's one thing as a panel member. I got onto a captain earlier because I seen a Master Sergeant EPR come up here, and one of the bullets was an education bullet. And that bullet read, I would literally tell you pretty much verbatim, towards like completed 9 hours towards bachelor's degree in, basket weaving. Got a 3.7 GPA, made Dean's List, period. Okay, so what did you do with it? How did you apply that to your leadership, to your management? Are you doing anything with that education? You're doing education, good on you, but look at your peer group. If you looked across every tech sergeant that was eligible this cycle, probably 99% of you had your CCS or dual CCS, because we all know, and within recruiting anyways, if you already have an existing CCF, and you go over to recruiting, it doesn't take much to get your CCF in human resource management. There's very little effort there. You get it, check. All right, so that's your peer group. People who are working on their bachelor's or master's, obviously it looks good, but are you a career student or are you a leader? That's the other thing. You really need to incorporate what you are doing with that new knowledge, and whether it's college or other some form of professional development or enhancement, what are you doing with it for the people that are around you? And here's a good example, and I don't think the wrong person's on this line. Yep, never mind. We separate from the Air Force. For example, when it comes to like Gold Badge, all right? Gold Badge is a whole person concept award, and every squadron will have one. And that traditionally comes from your top 3 producing recruiters within the squadron, but it's still a whole person concept award. And so I would say in 2018, we had 3 candidates. One candidate, he was the top producing recruiter, period, by far. But he didn't get the Gold Badge because he missed out on the opportunity to be a good wingman. All right. And I say that because in 2019, he was a candidate again for the Gold Badge. Again, high numbers. But you know what was happening in the background? His office mate wasn't even meeting goal. What does that tell me about that airman? All right. And so the same falls true with all the rest of this EPR stuff. It's just not, you're tech, and you're trying to tell me, you're trying to sell me a message that you're ready to be a senior NCO, to take on teams. All right. So what are you doing to take care of your peer group or those below you? If that message is not there, then hey, great. You're a good technician, and you will continue to be a good technician.
Money. Awesome. Okay. Who else wants to chime in with something?
All right. Hey, brother, just to let you know, Chief Todd, I'm going to bounce out. I've got to run to the airport.
Man,
so I
pure
appreciate
gold.
the team putting this on. Great stuff. I definitely look forward to future ones because I know there's a bunch of folks that are out there recruiting and teleworking and dealing with COVID and every daggum thing else. Definitely open to doing this stuff again. Don't make this a one-time deal, you guys. You ask any chief out there in the field to do this stuff, we'll jump on over. But it takes one of y'all out there in the field to jump on it and set this thing up. So y'all take care.
See ya. Hey, thanks again. Great inputs.
Yes, sir.
Great inputs. All right, everybody, let's wait till he's gone, and then I got something to say about him, and we need to have him do.
We'll take it, sir.
No, I was just going to say, you guys probably, some of you have seen my brief about the promotion thing. Man, have another one with more updated info. I'm last year's news. Chief Todd is the man of the year. So, all right. So what else we got? What other questions are there? Is there still stuff that hasn't been answered yet anywhere?
Yes, sir. So we have, how is it viewed when a tech sergeant recruiter is being rated by a tech sergeant flight chief? Does it hold more weight if the rating chain remains the same throughout the RICS tour?
That's a myth. That's an old myth. We weren't even looking at that. Who signed the EPRs? That's not a thing, honestly. And you can't control who your boss is. It's an old myth. Zero weight. I never even looked or noticed. I only skimmed like names once in a while. And I was just like curious. Oh, look, I know that person. But nah, there was none of that. None at any level, no matter what job you're in. I wouldn't give it a thought. What else?
All right, more questions? We still have 51 people holding on.
Yeah, I mean, anything anybody wants to talk about, again, or else I'll break out the harmonica.
Hey, Chief, I got a question. This is Sergeant Perez. Is it I'm not sure if you spoke about this earlier, but is it frowned upon if you do 2 tours back-to-back tier 2?
No. So, okay, here's how this works. Not everybody can move forward. So the non-recruiters won't know this, but you can get it pretty quick. When you move lateral, when your rank hasn't changed to Master Sergeant, I mean, everybody knows this is kind of Air Force wide. Flight Chief is Master Sergeant job. So Flight Chief and up is Master Sergeants. And every once in a while, a Tech Sergeant holds the job because there weren't enough Masters or this one's that good or whatever. But when you see a Tech Sergeant doing a Tech Sergeant job and then they don't get promoted and they PCS to another Tech Sergeant job, that's what happens in every AFSC. You don't just keep moving up the food chain without promotions to go with it. So it was non-existent. Now, if you move backwards, that's a problem. So when I say backwards, you wouldn't move to tier 1 from a tier 2, but you could move from a tier 3 to a tier 2. If you move from a tier 3 to a tier 2, that could be a flag, like, what happened? Something went wrong somewhere. But no, there's nothing, no issue. I mean, I won't say it helps you, but it doesn't hurt you. That's just a normal PCS.
Thanks, Chief.
You bet. And again, to throw that caveat back in again, these are all Cory Frommer answers. I don't know what everybody else, thinks. That's how I see it. And that's what I would imagine most board members would. What else we got? Is there stuff in the chat room or anybody want to speak up or?
Hi, I'm Sergeant Bowles.
Hello.
Chief. Hi, I just had a question. So I don't know if it's just coming into a new career field, but what would you suggest if we've reached out to certain people in leadership and we haven't really gotten feedback? Like asking for record reviews, but then they haven't really gotten back to you. You follow up, doesn't really coordinate with the schedule, I guess. For me, I'm struggling to find what I need to be doing to improve because I don't want to sit at the same level of, good. I want to branch out more, but it's been kind of difficult.
Sure. So before I answer it, before anyone else drops off, I should have said this earlier. If anybody ever wants me to do a one-on-one record review with them, you don't got to be my troop. I'm a chief. I'll do a record review with anybody. And so I would hope any chief you'd ask, or any senior you'd ask, or any first sergeant you'd ask, or any master sergeant you'd ask, I would like to think they would. But understanding that, okay, maybe they're busy and maybe, their experience level or whatever. So what I would say, so I want to extend that offer to everybody, that if anyone wants one, even, I mean, it's not me or someone else. If you could want to get my opinion, and then you can have someone else do it, and they take 2 hours, ask anybody. But I will do it. You might have to wait if I'm real busy, but I will do it. But anyway, my answer to you is,
we can also facilitate that as well. That's the initiative we're doing for the 5-6.
Yep,
so
I know it.
If you want to do that, just send in your name and we'll get you hooked up, Chief, here.
Yeah. So, and, but my answer would be twofold. One, nag them. Don't let them off the hook. That's their responsibility. When you make senior NCO, this comes with the turf, mentoring airmen. Even if it's not your airmen, it's all of our airmen are all of our airmen. So nag them first off, but because we get busy in our calendars and all that, but also don't just think about your chain. Never get stuck on your chain. What position are you in right now, Sergeant Bowles?
Yes, sir. I just enlisted recruiting.
Oh, okay, no problem. Not just. Okay, so I was going to say, if you were a tier 2, you came from somewhere, but even if your folks are just, you can't get it together, or even if you get it together and they do a great record review with you, don't limit yourself. Reach out to everybody you know that you trust, and gather as many opinions as you can. Take the good, leave what you think you don't agree with, or you don't believe, or whatever. And the more you get, the better. Okay. So reach out to other folks, and honestly, you can reach out to total strangers. Honestly, or ask your friend, hey, you went to recruiting school, right? So you still keep in touch with all those people? Email each other and be like, hey, anybody got a really good chief that could do a record review? I got one from mine. I'd like to get another one. Anybody got a recommendation? Whatever. I mean, honestly, and in your career field and out of your career field, cross-flow chiefs will look at it different than I look at. I don't know if you all know what a cross-flow chief is. I'm a career recruiter, but we also have chiefs like Chief Todd who are not a career recruiter. They're a chief that got a job in recruiting. We have the same job, but we don't have the same experience. So I have a different perspective. I'm not saying I have a better one. I would almost argue that he has a better one, because he will see it the way those other board members will. I'm recruiter, tunnel vision. So gather a lot of opinions from your old chief, at your last unit, or your old shirt, or whoever. Gather a lot of opinions from different areas. Okay. Did I answer your question well?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, you're welcome. Do you want to hear my harmonica? No. Next question. It's awful, the harmonica thing. Ask anybody.
All right, so we have one in the chat.
Yeah.
Where did it go? So we have, what advice would you give the tier 1 RICs who just got selected for Master Sergeant? How can they continue to show progression when not a flight chief, when not at a flight chief level?
Yeah, next question. You got an easy question? No, I'm just kidding. So, all right. It's hard. I don't want to misrepresent it. It's hard. I will not lie to you and be like, oh, you just gotta, it's very, very difficult. And I chalk that up. Anybody who's been in one of my units has heard one of my mottos: life ain't fair, kid. And let me explain. When back in your old career field that you may and may not have wanted to leave with developmental special duty, if you make Master Sergeant, you will probably change offices, change desks. All the people working for you, you now will have a much bigger pyramid of people working for you. Your responsibilities, your duty title, it all changes. And you start being a Master Sergeant immediately. And when I say being a Master Sergeant, I'm saying that sort of facetiously. You start being a Master Sergeant the day you get your line number, and hopefully before that, but okay. So, all right. Unfortunately, because of recruiting, so I'm gonna address what you can do, but first I want to address your frustration, because I know people are frustrated. And by the way, I made Master on the bag. I was a recruiter when I made Master, so I get it. So unfortunately, our organization, because of the way it is, has to be the way it is with the tiers, and we cannot. It's too expensive. The manpower wouldn't support it for us to just PCS someone when they, because anywhere else you would switch desks, but here you can't switch desks. You got a PCS to get a senior NCO level job commensurate with the rank you just made. And you may have PCS'd in here 6 months ago and you just made master. And now you got to do, maybe a 4-year tour. I hate to say it. Life Ain't Fair Kid is a real thing. Sometimes the timing just isn't ideal. For some people it is, for some people it isn't, and you can't predict those things. And we cannot spend all that money and turn our whole command structure upside down for you. We don't exist for promotions. Promotions fall within the reason why we exist. Our organization, the Air Force, all that, it does not, it exists for national security, for the taxpayers, all that kind of stuff. Not to give us it's not a social program. So it's frustrating, and that's not the official Air Force answer. That's the Cory Frommer answer. And I'm sorry, but that's how I see it. It's very frustrating. You have to generate opportunities, and you'll be limited in how much you can do it. However, a tier 1 recruiter could have set this up. A tier 1 recruiter could run for the 5-6. A tier 1 recruiter could go to their local base, any installation, any service, don't just think Air Force Base if you don't have a base near you. And don't just think active duty. It could be Guard or Reserve, and get involved with their enlisted folks. They could get involved with Toastmasters. They can get involved with the VFW and the American Legion. They could get involved with a cause that they're passionate about. Pacific Islander heritage, or in the community. I'm not talking about in the military, and it's year round. It's not just, don't just think of their Heritage Month. Get involved with a cause. Find a cause. Find something you care about, something you're passionate about. You can feel good about being involved in, whether it's on the base, or whether it's VA, veteran type related, or whether it has nothing at all to do with the military. But you need to show a board member, not that you went to a food drive or went to Habitat for Humanity. You need to show me, and this is not easy. I don't want to represent it as easy. Don't hear it that way. And it takes time. But you need to talk to a board member about, there's nothing you can do about the tier you're in, but it's what you do. You need to demonstrate that you are able to get out of your comfort zone, do hard things, work at a higher level, get elected to office in something. I remember when I was on the board, I saw 2 things that I remember that I've talked about before. One was a PTA member of like an entire district or whatever. I don't have kids. I don't know. And I didn't really go to school when I was one. So I don't know the structure, but they were over like 20 schools and like thousands of kids. And they were the president of that PTA. And they talked about all the things they did. That's legit. That is legit. They got credit for that. I had another one who had, what was the other one? Somebody remind me. Anybody remind me? Homeowners Association. That's what it was. But it was like 2,000 houses. And like they talked about all the things they did. And they were the president. And it wasn't a little homeowners association like we all live in where, you got 40 houses or 100 houses. It was ginormous. And they were the president. And it was millions of dollars in their budget and all kinds of stuff. That's the kind of thing. I know somebody else, they were in a charity. They worked their way up and they were like the state chairperson for a national charity organization. And they were like the state rep. You got AFSA. There's a million things out there. There are things out there. Make no mistake about it. You have to get out of your comfort zone and do it. And it's hard, but and it still won't bridge the gap of being in a leadership role. But I tell you what, it'll show that you're doing what you can. And then there's the private orgs like the 5-6. There's things you could do with your squadron. I don't know how many of you have a squadron newsletter, but we didn't. And a couple of sharp tech sergeants in my squadron just started one. A couple of tech sergeants. Anybody could do that, right? A tier council within your squadron. Of course, group is better. AFRS is better. MAGCOM is better. AFRS wide is better. But something. You got to do something. Leading your DEP is not leading because so is every other tier 1 recruiter. So don't confuse leading your DEP members. It's true. It's legitimate leadership, but it doesn't distinguish you from every other recruiter. Okay. All right. So I hope I answered that question well. I drank a lot of coffee this morning, so you got to bear with me on the energy. And again, the headset makes me yell.
Hey, Chief, can I jump in the sergeant question?
Yeah. Did you ever finish your first one?
Yeah, we're all good, sir. I had a couple, but it's fine. No worries. CMSgt Superintendent out here in 6-8 for everybody. every squadron has 3 or 4 Master Sergeant Tier 1 recruiters on average. And everything Chief Frommer just said as far as involvement in other entities, building opportunities, 100% accurate. The other thing that I'll share is, and I had this conversation with my recruiter when I was a flight chief when she made Master Sergeant on the bag. And the very first day when she was notified and we were also doing an office visit, she made a comment and I said, no, that's not going to work anymore. You're a Master Sergeant, you had a line number for it. I expect as a superintendent, my Master Sergeants to be different than my Tier 1 Technical Sergeant, Staff Sergeant recruiters. And that's the bottom line. And if your thought processes are smaller scale, if they're flight level thought processes, then you're operating like a staff or technical sergeant in what their responsibilities are in regards to the enlisted force structure. I expect you as a Master Sergeant to lead the way, especially within recruiting. We get so flight centric in our competitiveness or in our, what are we doing this flight versus that flight, number 1 in the squadron or not. But the reality is, just like Chief Frommer said way earlier in this briefing, what your commander is saying about you on the back of that EPR dictates how that board is looking at you. And if you're a Master Sergeant in a Tier 1 position, stepping beyond just enlisted accessions and making a difference across the squadron, reaching out to new recruiters, people that are struggling, being innovative, new concepts and ideas on how to enhance the squadron, which then becomes a benchmark for the group or AFRS, like what are you doing besides just putting people in the Air Force? And because that's what Master Sergeants do. They don't just do their job. They do that job. They're good at it, great at it. And then they have all these extra responsibilities that are bestowed upon them. Are you stepping out of that shell, or are we just figuring out how to be a recruiter? So there are many different ways to be involved in leading your unit unofficially. And I promise you, your chief, your pro soup, and your commander are going to see that, because their number 1 priority is the squadron. Where's the squadron at? And if they see the impact you're making on the squadron, not just your flight, that'll reflect, even though you're not in an official position, it'll reflect on what the back of that EPR is saying about you down the road.
If I could just add, Chief Kesey. Yep, go ahead, please.
Sorry, just as a current Tier 1 Master Sergeant, I made Master about 6 months coming in, and the same frustrations are real, but they're exactly right. It's all about, you only grow where you're planted, and you can more than overcome. You have to own that it's going to be tough. You have to own that and work 2 times as harder, but you can make it happen. So feel free to reach out to me separately if you want. I can give you my pointers and tips and my experiences. I'm happy to share that. I just wanted to cut off that.
Thank you. That was really helpful, actually. Yeah, I mean, it can be done. It's hard, and life ain't fair. Maybe it's harder than it has to be, or somebody else is a flight chief, Master Sergeant, you're a Tier 1. True, you're right. There's nothing we can really do about it. So you got to do something. Chief Gardner said it really well last week on a call. Blossom where you're planted. Do the best you can in your world, the best you can. And get outside of your comfort zone. Somebody else was just going to talk. I saw it. All right, I'm on hold for any questions. Sergeant McKay is like, hell no, I ain't keeping my camera on.
I can't. Well, my personal computer just has a weird fuzzy camera thing happening. So,
does anybody have anything still?
I was gonna say, myself, I'm a Staff Sergeant, EA Rick, Tier 1. So we have
excellent.
Oh yeah, we have our Vice President, Sergeant Davis, Matthew Davis. He's a special warfare recruiter, and our Secretary, Texas Nixon, he is also a special warfare recruiter. So, our other members, Sergeant Turner, she's a MEPS liaison, and Sergeant Trigg, don't know how to say his name, but he works, for OA Ops. So we all have different schedules of busyness. And the one thing I can say that's helped me is talking to my supervisor and having that, go up, letting people within my chain know, like, hey, this is what I want. I want to be a part of the bigger stuff. And And that's helped me just express that and have that support. So there's not that added pressure of, well, I have to do I have to put people in the Air Force. You do, but there's a way to be able to balance that and not feel that pressure or that guilt from that side, while also being able to step out and do more. And it helps with your day-to-day as well, knowing that you are doing more than just putting, the people in the Air Force. That's my 2 cents.
Great. It's great. That was worth like a whole nickel. So as I'm scrolling through here, I see Eric Hart, Sergeant Hart on here. And I would like to ask Chief Kesey, he's the superintendent here in 368. And superstar, if you ever get a chance, read his bio. Up and coming. I would be very shocked if this man doesn't make chief this year, and if he does, it'll be very soon thereafter. And I think he probably will have some words. So sorry to put you on the spot, but Sergeant Hart, you feel
What's
like
going
in?
on, Chief?
What's up, man? You got anything you can add, or you were thinking that you were holding back, or not questions for me, stuff for the group?
Yeah, I mean a lot of stuff, Chief. You and even Chief Kesey hit on what. Chief Kesey hit on a little bit. I think a lot of times recruiters, they look at their current situation as far as their duty titles or what position they're in. And I always tell my recruiters to make sure you understand that you can grow in your position. Just because you may be a Master Sergeant Tier 1 recruiter doesn't or shouldn't hold you back from excelling. Just because your duty title might not be a flight chief, you can still perform at a certain level above that rank, which currently most of our Master Sergeants hold. So a lot of times just don't get caught up in your certain position that you hold yourself back from being better than what you are. Is always a key thing that I think a lot of NCOs have to focus on. If you're a staff, perform at a tech sergeant level. And also if you're a tech sergeant, perform at that Master Sergeant level. Yeah, I see, Sergeant McKay. Just excel to the rank that you're trying to get to. It's just, I think, a tidbit of advice. But you do have to be real creative, especially if you're not near a base, to figure out different ways to, beyond what you outperform, and also show those leadership capabilities. For myself, for an example, when I was a flight chief in Waco, I did have to go down to Fort Hood, try to figure out some of the organizations out there maybe I could speak to. I went on the Chamber of Commerce website, try to be a part of those organizations. So you just have to really be creative and think outside the box. So hopefully that helps.
It does. Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, we got AFSA executive officers who are Tier 2 recruiters in my squadron right now. You could do that as a Tier 1. And like we said, there's a million organizations out there. So all right, so I mean, and any topic, it could be about recruiting stuff, it could be anything. I'm on here until there's nobody else on here, so as long as the questions come in, I'll be sitting here and I'm going to pull Sergeant Kesey, Chief Kesey and Sergeant Hart in to help me if I get stumped anywhere. Anybody else got anything?
Hey, Chief, I'll ask one more question. It's kind of a selfish question, but I'm gonna go for it. In terms of like different tours and all that, I guess does an overseas tour hold more weight, if not equal, or how does that look in terms of the board itself?
When you say overseas, you mean like an overseas recruiter?
Yes, sir.
What do you mean? Really none. Equal weight with any other Tier 2 type, position. I wouldn't say that it has any extra weight, and maybe it should, especially if you're your own MEPS, depending on if you're in Europe, or where you're at. Some are, some aren't. If it's communicated well, maybe you can get a little juice out of that. But the 2 non-recruiters won't know the difference. Okay, it's a recruiter. They're overseas, but they're a recruiter. And the stateside ones, if you weren't in a unit, if the 8R on the board was never in like 319 or any of the squadrons that have overseas recruiters, they won't really get the nuances, even if you write it, unless you can really write it well and drive the point home of why that's any tougher than any other recruiter. And then there's also the how well you did it part. So mostly not. It won't get you promoted for sure. It's not like, oh man, that's a tier 2 overseas recruiter. It definitely won't get you that kind of juice. Like, wow. But if it'll help, you'd really have to frame it right, and that'd be tough. That'd be a challenge.
Roger that. Thanks, Chief.
You bet. Where are you, by the way?
Sir, I'm in Puerto Rico.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Yes, sir.
Who else? While we're waiting, anybody anywhere near the hurricane? Anybody? Nobody was in the hurricane path? That's good. Okay. All right. Anybody else got anything? I'm just sitting here now. I'm watching the participants trickle off, which is fine. But I'll sit here. Like I said, if somebody's got something.
Ask. I got one more for you.
Oh, jeez. I mean, yeah. What's up, Ricky?
And it's mainly for all the other support people that aren't recruiters out there, personnel, CSTs, all that. I know a lot of them are concerned for that they either can't compete or don't compete when it comes to awards and recruiting, or how to stand out when it comes to being those individuals that are outside of recruiting as a whole, so they feel like they're not looked at in detail. Any advice for how to stand out or kind of not necessarily put in some extra work, because we don't have to stress a goal, so we have a lot more opportunities available to us, but anything you'd recommend for other units?
Yeah, by the way, congratulations on being the group Saigon as a CST, just to reinforce your point. It can be done for you folks who are not an 8R or you're a trainer or ops. You are working at a squadron headquarters, probably, or group headquarters, and you are in the kind of nerve center. So you are right where all the things that are going to affect the entire squadron are taking place. So as a CST doing CST stuff, you probably wouldn't get, all the big awards, the Force Distro, but as a invaluable member of the squadron headquarters who's rolling out things outside of your scope, who's actually making the unit better, not just keeping things running, but actually changing it. As far as examples, that's tough. Actually, you might be in a better position than I am, or if there's any personnelists on here. So you're a CST, and as a personnelist, you guys might be able to offer better insights than I could. But I know that there's always things going on from the squadron that need somebody to run it. And you guys are in a perfect opportunity to try to take that on. So there are lots of opportunities. You might even say more, than the other folks. What do you think, Sergeant Wingend, or what would you offer?
I think that would depend on the position and what how motivated you are to step outside of what you're doing in your daily duties. So I guess that depends on the individual. But what I hear a lot from other support individuals is that when they submit awards, they don't feel like they can compete, or feel like they're not looked at closely compared to their recruiting counterparts, because obviously our bullets are going to be different. So I myself know you have to know how to tie them into the mission and make sure that it equates to showing the support that you're providing. But ultimately, I could tell people that's not the case all I want, but I guess it really depends on whether they take it or not.
Yeah, and I would say from a person who grades 1206s commonly, every person's different when they're grading these things. But if you can show what you're doing and how it directly ties to the mission, it's different than just tying it to the mission. Directly tying it to the mission, where something was about to fail and you saved it or whatever, or your direct link. But also, it goes back to that context. If you say that you did your job and the squadron, one top squadron, you just did your job. But if you could show me why you saved the day, or you did something different or better than your peers in other squadrons or your peers within the squadron, that kind of thing. If you invent or create a new thing that allowed you to do it better, and you can somehow give it context. So it's that context, and absolutely things outside of your comfort zone, regardless of your AFSC, those are the kinds of things we're looking for on 1206s.
Hey, Chief, I don't necessarily have a question, but I just wanted to ask something. So I'm a personnelist.
What's up, son? I know who you are. What's going on?
Hey, so I just want to add, for your personnelists and your squadrons and for each squadrons, we are here to help you guys, but just remember, it's one of us to 70 to 80, 90 of you guys. So just make sure you're checking your records. We can always help you get something updated. That's not the issue or the problem, but we still have our day-to-day job along with customer service. So if you can bring to us the issue of what you're missing, a decoration, the EPR, or there's an error, making sure your EPRs are being closed out with the right markings. So if you got an exceed, all those little details matter when it comes to a board and a records review. Set up an appointment with your personnel, just have them go over your records. I know we can't give you advice like a chief, but we can at least make sure that everything is updated properly in the system, even any codes that you may not know are lingering around from an old assignment, availability codes. There's so much that goes into like a personnelist in our job. So don't be afraid to reach out to your personnelists, kind of try to make them your friend, especially for promotion boards and things like that. We are here to help you guys, so just reach out to us, but we can't do it for you, is basically the bottom line. No one cares about your record more than you, so.
Very good. Thank you. I know you cringed earlier when somebody asked, how do you correct that? I just tell you, personnel will do it for you.
I did. That's why I had the camera on.
I'm glad. Yeah, you're like, oh. Yeah.
And I think that was my guy that asked. So we're going to have a long conversation. Don't put me out there on Front Street starting hair.
Like, don't you even have a personnelist? Oh, you must be in 313.
That rep Sergeant Harry, man. Thank you.
You bet. I hope it's not snowing already in Syracuse.
It's getting close to that time.
I know it is. I know it is. I know it. So, all right, who else has anything? We're just talking now. So,
hey, Chief, I wanted to touch a little bit on Sergeant Hart's comments. If you're a staff sergeant, you want to be operating like a technical sergeant and vice and so forth, right? Tech to master. And sometimes the question is, okay, well, I thought I was already doing that, or how do I do that? And in the experience I've had over the last 3 years, pro superintendent and doing different board reviews and whatnot, most people think their records are legit, like they're written well, like it can't be any better. And it's not until you start seeing other records when you really start to put into context, like, dang, either my stuff is legit or, okay, it's not compared to these other ones that I'm looking at and I thought it was. And so we often operate in this one little purview where we think it's X, but the reality is it's up here. So find those folks that you trust. As mentioned earlier, find the people that have made the grade you're looking at making it, or made 2 above that, and ask them if you could see their records. Like, take a look at how their bullets are written. Take a look at how they're capturing performance and impact. And that's the best way to figure out, are my records in a position to actually be competitive? I think they are, but in reality, the board's seeing them and they're like, but average. It's not capturing. So look at other records and read the enlisted force structure. That'll tell you how to operate at the next pay grade or the next tier, for that matter. That'll help out a lot. But just find those folks that have promoted around you and talk to them. And you might be surprised at what you learn and how you can adapt your writing style and or how you're capturing your information.
Word. So, all right, any topic, anybody want to add something? Not necessarily a question, but if anybody had something that they thought was relevant to the conversation, just a suggestion or question or whatever, because like I said, we're just talking now. So
Hi, Chief.
Yeah. Hey, what's
sorry.
up? What's going on, Senator?
So I apologize. I'm multitasking, working in the MEPS with applicants. So if you had said this, I'm waiting until the end in case it's a duplicate question.
Take the 6th year. Take the 6th year. Go ahead.
I know, right? So my whole thing is, if I've noticed that maybe a bullet on an EPR that was a strong bullet wasn't given the right justification. So for example, I came across something that said I did something on a squadron level when it was actually at a base level. To me, that's a big difference. So how do I go about trying to get that corrected? Because I believe that EPR is going to be used when I get boarded.
It's tough. The Air Force Board of Military Records Corrections Board, or I forget what the exact, I don't know, you guys that studied remember. But basically, it's a hard process, and there's no guarantee you'll win it. It's possible if your unit is on board with the rewrite, it'll help a lot if they agree. But if you're actually like disputing it, and they're like, nah, you're on your own here, good luck. That's tough. That's tough. Chief Kesey, did you got any experience with that kind of thing? Reattacks on old EPRs? They take a long time too.
Yeah, when it's already in your record, it's tough. And I think, I forget the AFI, but they have like 8 months to review afterwards. What your question really emphasizes is when you get that record and you're getting ready to sign it, most squadron leadership, like if you can tell them, hey, this wasn't squadron, this is wing, that chief's going to make sure that they get it corrected before it goes permanent. But you have to read your records before you sign it, make sure it's drafted correctly, make sure the right terminology, because once it does go permanent, it is extremely challenging. And something like just changing squadron to wing, even though the Board of Correction for Military Records is, I don't even know how they would entertain that particular question. I don't know that would be even a substantial enough reason to go back and change it. But like I said, really do due diligence. Same thing when you're preparing for the board that's going to be looked at. Make sure your records are there, because I've seen that happen, and trying to get it fixed after the promotion board results have come out. I've seen it fixed, but that's a nightmare in and of itself. Do what needs to be done first, and make sure you're working with your supervisor and your CSS to make sure that stuff is correct the first time.
Yeah, but you definitely got your work cut out for you if you want to really try to get that done. That doesn't mean you don't try. You always throw the Hail Mary. There's no risk. You always throw the Hail Mary, but yeah, you got an uphill battle. What else?
Chief, to add on that, I'm a big proponent, and Chief Taub, mentioned that he's been writing his records his whole career almost. And I think it's important. It's maybe not a popular topic, but you should be writing your stuff. And if you write that draft, your supervisor is only going to make it better. So you gotta take ownership and write for you and your subordinates. And when I'm working with my NCOs, I tell them, all right, we're working on this EPR. This is the first time we teach you how to write. And it's all about that magic, because if you send me a draft bullet and then I fix it and send it to you, you're not going to know how we made it better. It's all about sitting with that leader and watching them fix it together. You learn that magic, and you're better the next time. So it sync out to those mentors and leaders and see that magic happen, use it and share it.
Yeah, that's good. And that goes for 1206s too. Decorations, EPRs, and 1206s. Nobody loves you like you. I remember, I used to spend hours when I was a flight chief with my recruiters whenever I was nominating them, hours helping them write their 1206 together. So you need to take ownership of all your records. You have no right to have what you want written to be included, but you sure have the right to try. So you got to try. Yeah, absolutely. Take ownership of that stuff. Okay, who else? What else? We're trickling off. Well, 5-6, you guys are running this thing, so you call it. But I will be the last person to log off in case somebody has anything. But you got the cons.
Sergeant Turner, did you want to do any last minute comments or anything at all for the group?
I just want to say thanks. This was awesome. I think that a ton of people have drawn a lot of information out of this. It's definitely going to make them stronger NCOs. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do this live on Facebook, But if you want to go back and review it, we will be posting the recording onto the 5-6 Recruiting Service 5-6 page. Search that on Facebook, and then you can review this information once more if you wanted to go back and draw notes from it. But thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Awesome. I appreciate you giving us a chance to do this too, and having McKay actually hosting it. I appreciate you doing that. So, because I'm not as savvy when it comes to Zoom, I asked the question to Chief Frommer probably the last day or two. We're both like, I don't know how to do that. So, I really appreciate you.
Hopefully there is a recording. It says it's
Hopefully.
recording. Hopefully there is a recording.
It's been saying the whole time.
Yeah, so we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess overall, then I'm going to conclude the records review event. I think this was very successful. I think for the most part, we held between 60 to 80 participants, and heck, even now we still have over 30 that have listened to all this. I know, even if you're a senior NCO, listen to it. I know you guys gained something from it for staff sergeants and techs. You guys seen, even from my records, I hope you guys got it conveyed that there's a lot that I wish I could go back and change, and hopefully you guys can do it a little bit better than I did. Because now you see, starting to turn and ask the question, can I go back and change it? It sounds like it's like pulling teeth almost. So you're kind of, you reap what you sow kind of thing. You got to make sure you take control of your own records. So I'm more fortunate now that I can at least take this for my own records, but also when I become a supervisor again. I just want to make sure, Chief Frommer, thank you so much for taking time to do this. Again, a lot of information. There's a handful of other chiefs that got involved. Senior year involved too. I appreciate it. But overall, very successful, and I'm really looking forward to people signing up for this. I hope you guys take the advantage of doing this type of initiative. So thanks for your guys' time. I have nothing else unless somebody else does.
I would just say,
cool.
I would just say, don't be afraid to ask. We talked a lot about getting out of our comfort zone, and that's something I had to do this past year. And I like to think that's kind of how, where I'm paving my way. But asking other people outside the squadron, if you can't find the people that are clicking with you and working with you to help get your ideas, that's part of the reason why the 5-6 is here. But also, combined thinking is better than solo thinking. So just to be able to get your ideas put together, more structured, or just, I put a big post in the chat box, just to start trying to find different ways to be creative, because that was also my other very big thing that I struggled with, finding different orgs to be a part of. So as I mentioned, the Junior Achievement US, if you Google it just like that, it'll bring up something you can get involved with school-age children. Suicide prevention awareness is next month, so there's probably a local event happening if you want to try to be a part of their team. And then food pantries are still, having their events as well. Ask to be on their logistics team. That's the one way that you're going to be able to not just participate, but have that leadership to get creative. So.
Oh, that's smart. That's smart. And then you can, you got a foot in the door. That's smart. That's smart.
Yeah. And I put my phone number on the Rick to Rick page, but if anybody needs anything for anything, I'm here as well. I don't do much, so I'm always here to have an ear, shoulder, whatever works.
No, that's awesome. Really appreciate it. And again, these type of things help kind of bring those to light of more opportunities out there. So even though you're a staff or a tech, you guys need to start acting like you're masters, because you guys are going to be going to that board very shortly. I know for myself, when I made tech, I was like, well, I got 2 years till I go to the board. Don't really need to do too much right now. That's the dumbest thing I could have thought, and I'm kind of paying the price for that. So, but you're way ahead of where I was at, even being part of the 5-6 right now, the council itself. Yeah, you're definitely a lot more ahead than I was. So that's awesome to see. But anybody else got any other comments? Anything else till I pretty much conclude this?
Well, I want to thank all you guys for putting it together, for really being very smart about who you asked to do the record review. No, I'm just kidding. But honestly, for putting this together,
I trust you.
It's a great service you're doing. And yeah, don't let it just be a one-time thing. Just keep them going and ask different people so you get some diversity of thought in there. And it was great. I really appreciate you guys, and I appreciate all the good questions, and I appreciate the help from all you guys who chimed in to give an assist. Thank you.